So, are you ready for some stories? Excellent. Okay. Then our first story of the night comes from Chris Cameron.
Hi. All right. Put yourself into Bullhead City, Arizona. I know. January 1st, 2016, 6 a.m. Happy New Year? Not exactly. Got up to find that half the house was flooded in ankle-deep water from a broken pipe in the water heater closet. It was a mess. It was a holiday weekend. It was really a mess. Anyway, after much wrangling and hangling, about a week later, I finally got contractors to come in to tear everything apart, got my elder mom moved with our 3 dogs up to a rental property 25 miles away, and got the project started. Everything was kind of going along all right. I was going down there every day to check on things. On February 6th, a Wednesday night, I'm on my way to my bowling league, which I did every Wednesday, and my contractor says, oh, by the way, I need 1 more box of porcelain tile to finish the bathtub. Can you pick it up on the way to Laughlin? I said, sure. So I go to the home decor store, go down to the aisle where the porcelain tile is. These boxes were about 2 feet long by 1 foot wide, and the bottom of them was about 6 inches deep. So I see them on the shelf, but rather than laying them down flat on a shelf about this high, they had stacked them on the short end, back to back to back. There were about 7 of them stacked like this. As I try to dislodge the first one, I can't get it off the shelf to, muscle it into my cart because there was 1 box laying down next to them. So as I turn to the right to move that box, I didn't know it was anchoring all the other boxes. The front 60-pound box of tile flips off the shelf and crushes my left foot. I fall to the ground, pull off my Ugg boot. I can already see a very angry red mark on my foot, and it starts to swell immediately, and I'm yelling, somebody call the manager, I've been injured, please, somebody call for help. I saw 2 or 3 people with their carts coming down the aisle and looking at me, and I'm yelling, please go get help, and they shrug and on they go. I'm like, what the heck, So about 5 minutes later, finally, this young, fresh-faced assistant manager with a clipboard comes up to me and says, I need to take an accident report. I said, you need to call 911. I got to get to the hospital. So while we're waiting for the EMTs to come, he takes his report. The EMTs take me to the ER, and the doctor takes an x-ray and comes in and says, I have some good news and I have some bad news. The good news is your foot isn't broken. The bad news is it's badly crushed, and you'll probably not be able to put any weight on it for at least 4 to 6 weeks. So here's a pair of crutches and some ibuprofen. If it's not better in a week, go see a doctor. I'm telling you, that pain was unfreaking believable. By the time I got up in the morning, my foot was like a 5-pound sausage, a 10-pound sausage in a 5-pound bag. It was swollen, red, mottled, and it felt like somebody was lit it on fire. So I modeled through a week. Finally, at the end of the week, my mom says, look, I know this really good podiatrist down in Fort Mojave, about 30 miles away. Let's go see him. So I pack her up in the car, get her walker, the whole bit, get down to the doctor. He takes another x-ray and comes back and says, the doctor at the ER was wrong. Your foot is broken. He said, look, that little bone on the top of your foot? Okay. He said, see this little fracture mark? You can see it right next to that bone. So I'm going to put you in a boot cast for about 5 weeks, and we'll see how you do. If I thought the pain was bad before, strapping me into that boot cast was like putting a 5-foot-pound brick on top of my foot, wrapping it up, and lighting it with a torch. I'm telling you, every day I had to rip that Velcro open and pack my foot with ice 6 or 7 times a day just to be able to get through the day. I could barely sleep. I couldn't think straight. At the end of 3 weeks, I call him and say to him, the pain hasn't abated even like a little bit. He says to me, Chris, you broke your foot. There's going to be pain. But I'll tell you what, we'll do a CT scan just to make sure we didn't miss anything. So I hobble into the CT thing with my crutches, the whole bit, go through the whole thing. I've now been in the boot cast for a month by the time I go back to get the results of the CT scan. And he says, I have some good news and some bad news. I said, okay. The good news is your foot really wasn't broken. That was an old sports injury, probably when you used to play racquetball. The bad news is you have this condition called regional sympathetic dystrophy, and it'll never go away. I said, what does that mean exactly? He said, well, it's like it's all in your head, but it's not really in your head, but it's all in your head. Right now, my head felt like it was going to blow right off the top of my neck. I swear to God, I thought brains were going to splatter all over the ceiling. I said, well, how do we fix it? And he said, there is no fixing it. Call your insurance company, get a pain management doctor, and go see them. So the next day, of course, I hobble out on my crutches. Oh, he says, and here's the boot cast for free. I hobble out of my crutches. So I called, the next day, and they said, okay, there's a pain management doctor in your network in Phoenix or one in San Diego. I was a retirement planner at the time. Yeah, 5 hours either way. And because I worked in San Diego part-time with clients, I said, okay, and I had a friend there. I could stay with her. I said, I'll go there. So I go, I get all the stuff, send them to him. A week later, I show up in San Diego, and he says to me, well, I have some good news and some bad news. The good news is that RSD is now called CRPS. It's chronic regional pain syndrome. And we can do several different things to try to mitigate the pain. The bad news is you may never walk without assistance again. It's never going to go away. I was speechless. What? So in May of 2016, I went into physical therapy. I drove back and forth to San Diego twice a week. I did laser surgery. They blew me up in a big thing that made me only walk with 1/4 of my weight on a treadmill. I was seeing an acupuncturist. I did water therapy in a pool. I did everything you can think of to do. I was also seeing a psychiatrist because they were trying to hypnotize me and train my brain into not hearing the message from my foot telling me that it was still hurting. So 2 years later, I'm still on crutches, and the doctor says there's only 2 options left. We can either put a spinal implant into your spine with a button in your butt that you push to regulate the pain, or you can do ketamine infusions. I suggest you try the ketamine. I'd never heard of ketamine. I'd never done drugs. I didn't know anything about Special K parties or anything like that. So, I'm like, no, okay, whatever. That guy was in Scottsdale. I was only 4.5 hours away. So I gather up everything, send it to the doctor, go to Scottsdale, and he says, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to do ketamine once a month and see how you respond. But we want you to have a 70% good response or it's never going to work. So for 6 months, I went every month to do ketamine. Ketamine is like dropping LSD, okay? That's bad enough. Not only did I hallucinate for 3 hours every time that they did it, they paralyze you with a sedative called Versed, which is a paralytic anesthesia. So I was like a zombie the whole time. There were times that I would lay there and forget to breathe, and I would hear the nurse saying, Chris, you know how to breathe. Take a breath, take a breath, take a breath. I'd have to remember to breathe. There were times that I couldn't remember if I had a nose on my face. I would try to, put my hand on my face to see, do I really have... Sometimes I didn't know if I had a face. There was one time that I remember laying there, and the guy apparently was a novice, and I remember laying there thinking, oh my God, they've killed me this time. I hope somebody takes care of Mom and the dogs. Let me tell you, it was a trip. After the 7th infusion, the doctor said to me, if the next one doesn't give you 70% relief, it's never going to work. My brain went kaboom. It has to work, it has to work, it has to work. So I went in for the 8th infusion, and thank God I did finally get almost 70% relief. And after 2.5 years, I was able to walk without crutches. Let me tell you, it was a process. That first year, at the end of the year, I realized I would never be able to wear high heels again or any shoe that touches any part of my foot other than my toes. So I had to get rid of all my shoes. The second year, I reluctantly got rid of my 6 pair of cowboy boots and all my golfing equipment, or my bowling equipment, I'm sorry. And I had bowled for 7 years in league and 6 years in state and national tournaments all over Nevada. And I'd won 5 medals in senior Olympic tournaments. So that was a really hard dream to get rid of. But at the end of 9 years, here I stand. I was able to walk in without crutches. I still limp sometimes. And from limping for 2.5 years, it blew out the SI joint in my right hip, so I have to have shots every 6 months for that. It blew out my right knee. And even though 2 doctors told me, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, a 3rd doctor said, oh, I think we can do it. He was wrong. But I was hoping for 1 good leg. Now I've got 2 bum legs because it didn't work, and I have pain from that, so I have to deal with that on a daily basis. And I still have a hoop over the end of my bed because I can't stand the sheet touching my toes, my feet at all, my foot at all. But I didn't get rid of my golf clubs because I hold a hope deep down inside that someday, somehow, I will walk one exotic golf course again, even if I can only do it in 1 shoe.
Thank you, Chris. Well, Chris is a retired retirement planner. I'm confused, but okay. Anyways, she currently is caring for her elderly mom. As she mentioned, she moved here from Bullhead City in Laughlin to Chino Valley in January of last year. And by all mentioned, she is absolutely loving it here. So good for you. Welcome. And when not being hassled and bothered by me to do things, she's writing an inspirational memoir about overcoming child abuse. And that's a different story.